Alright, so tonight I decided to pull an oldie out of the files and watch it. Tonight we watched Disney's The Black Hole. I watched. This one's a hard movie to review. The first thing I'm going to say about it, and it's going to sound totally confusing when I say it, but Disney's The Black Hole is simultaneously one of the worst and best films you're ever going to see. It's one of the worst films mainly because it kind of was trying to cash in off of the big success of Star Wars before Disney decided to buy Star Wars franchise many, many years later. Disney decided they were going to attempt to make a movie that would cash in on the sci-fi craze generated from Star Wars. The result, The Black Hole. Now, The Black Hole, first of all, is historic in a sense because it was one of the last films to have an overture that played before the movie, which was basically the theme from the music from the film, which generally just ends up as part of background music or music in opening or closing credits for most movies nowadays. But this one had a whole 3-minute overture that played in theaters. It's one of the last two films to do this. This and Star Trek The Motion Picture had this, and the overture is on the DVD as well, which is really kind of a lost art, obviously. And instead of sitting through fuck tons of commercials and previews that sucked ass, usually there was a time when you used to get into the theater early and you'd listen to some of the music and enjoy it. Kind of a lost thing. I kind of feel bad about that. But when I say the movie is bad, it's a very slow movie. The pacing in the movie is very slow. There's also a lot of sort of cheesiness. There are Sentry robots that are really slow moving and very robotic moving. And while they're perceived as a threat from the cast members and the crew, they don't really feel like much of a threat. They just feel like mimes in black and red armor. They're like shitty attempts at stormtroopers. They did have some cool guns, though. They had a gun that had like an over and under barrel, which fired lasers on, which was kind of cool. I have to admit that. That's pretty cool. But I don't know whether Disney was just trying to make it family-friendly or a little bit campy, or they just didn't get how to make cool robots. Because there's two other robots in this, these two little flying versions of R2-D2. They're floating, look a little like R2-D2, but very campy looking, and you're going to see a lot of fucking wires in this movie. For whatever reason, probably mostly because they didn't have the digital expertise to remove wires for zero gravity scenes or things that floated. You catch a lot of the wires that support the floating robots or the cast members who are floating around in zero-G. So they come off as kind of cheesy, kind of campy, a little ridiculous, some of the floating robots, except for Maximilian, the bad guy robot, who just, even if you see the friggin' wire supporting him, he's just fucking one of the coolest robots in movie history. Doesn't really get the recognition that some of the other robots in movie history get, like C-3PO, R2-D2, or any cool robots, RoboCop. Maximilian probably does not get the recognition he should because it's a pretty fucking cool looking robot. Red, multi-arms, spinning blades, mutilates people. Really fucking cool looking. But the movie suffers from its own cheesiness, its own probably attempt to make it be family friendly, to Disney-fy it, I would say. It also suffers from like some severely weird lack of physics. There's often times where there's holes in the spaceship and people are floating out through the holes without lack of spacesuit, and they're perfectly cool. It's just like, oh look, we lost zero gravity and floated out into space, but we're good. We'll just drag you back in and everything's cool. So there's a lot of weird shit like that. One of the slowest gunfight sequences you've ever seen. Good music overall. Pretty good cast. I mean, I really can't complain about the cast. Some interesting concepts, without a doubt. Can a ship survive into the black hole? What's on the other side of a black hole? It had a lot of interesting thoughts and ideas. They had a robot that had ESP with a human crew member. So I can't crap on it. There's a certain amount of actual coolness in the movie that would work, but it's just kind of like intermingled with stuff that just really doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense and really doesn't stand the test of time. Even then, didn't stand the test of time, which is probably why there's never been a sequel. I know there was one point talk about a remake of it, but that apparently has been scrapped and probably is never going to happen considering Disney bought Star Wars. There's a lot of cool stuff about it, though. As I said, there's a robot that has ESP with a crew member, which is kind of cool and very... I don't even know if I've seen that done now, a robot that has ESP that talks with a human crew member on it. We also have one of the coolest ships I have ever seen in science fiction history, the Cygnus, which is this cool friggin' ship on the cover of the DVD. It is an amazing model in the film. It looks incredible, and the music makes it feel very epic too. Special effects are actually not bad in terms of like the space shot scenes and the black hole itself. It's a little dated because obviously you can kind of see where the effect meets the matte, but it does look pretty cool. One of the things that puts this movie over the top of actually being one of the best movies you're ever going to see is the ending itself. The ending is like somebody was reading Dante's Inferno, dropped a lot of acid, and had a major religious experience. All in one wrapped up, fucked up ending of a film that really doesn't solve anything or doesn't answer any of your questions when you see the movie. This is a good example. Basically, we're just jerking off and wasting time until we're going to go into the black hole. Because that's the promise is this madman has this ship. He has killed his crew. Spoilers, the movie was in like the fucking late 70s, so if you don't know the rules of what's going on with this by now, tough shit. This madman, this crew of the Palomino, a smaller ship, finds this larger ship, the Cygnus. They find out that the guy who was in charge of the ship, who was supposed to be back 20 years ago, was recalled. This mission has he's still out there. He's made some breakthroughs, and he believes he can travel through a black hole. He's a little out of his fucking mind. He's also told us that the ship has been abandoned. His crew had left. He told them to leave. He built these robots. We later find out these robots are not robots at all. They're his crew. He's more or less turned them into robots, kind of lobotomized them. They're better off dead, is what one of the smaller maintenance robots tells them. So clearly he's kind of out of his mind. He's lost his mind. But he's going to take the ship into the black hole. And of course, they're trying to get away. Shit goes wrong. Shit goes sideways. He betrays them. Some of their crew members get killed. Things of that nature. And they end up having to go into the black hole. As the larger ship, the Cygnus, breaks up, our bad guys are all killed. The robots are killed. It breaks up in the black hole. Some of our heroes manage to escape on a smaller drone ship, but it has been programmed to go through the black hole anyway. So he kind of does save them in a weird way because it is his theories and programming that makes the ship go through. But the journey through the black hole is a very strange fucking thing. Our bad guy, Dr. Reinhardt, is he's human. But he has this red robot, Maximilian, it floats. I mentioned him before. He's got rotating blade arms. He's really fucking cool. At any rate, as the ship starts to break up, Maximilian has been trapped under his own command console, like TV set. It's huge. It's like it's like any massive screen you would see on a sci-fi starship, but it's big. It's really big. So he gets crushed under it, and you assume he's going to die there. But at some point in time, as the ship starts to break up, you see his body just floating in space. For some reason, which is never explained, his hair has grown much longer than had previously been, like as if he had been another 20 years out there or something and never gotten a haircut. And his body meets up with the damaged Maximilian robot, and they kind of like space hug. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, they just meet face to face, belly to belly, and just kind of stare at each other. And then for some bizarre fucking reason, the Reinhardt's eyes are in the view slot for Maximilian, so somehow they became one. There's no explanation for this. It's not explained in any way, shape, or form. They just became one. And they're standing on top of this rock, which looks like it's in hell. There's lots of fire. You can see, obviously, what kind of looks like the crew members who wore like a silver faceplate mask and black hoods and black robes, wandering around with this hellish landscape. So we're led to, and you can see like the wreckage of the Cygnus burning there. So we're led to believe that whatever has happened, Reinhardt, while he is now ruling over a version of hell inside the black hole. I don't know how that works, but that's what happens. And meanwhile, our heroes are escaping through the black hole, and it just keeps getting weirder as it goes along. There's these long, stretched out moments of slow down and words from previous dialogue in the movie just kind of repeating in their heads and them screaming. And then they go through, and I shit you not, it's like a crystal cathedral. They're just going through this like corridor of a crystal cathedral, and an angel-like figure is leading them through. They proceed to merge on the other side of the black hole, which is now, I guess, a white hole, and there is a planet there, and we see the ship heading towards it. And honestly, that's how the movie fucking ends. So they really don't give you any real clear-cut answers as to what the fuck was going on in this last ending sequence. Our bad guy merges with his robot, rules over his people in hell, and our heroes go through a crystal cathedral with a space ghost, and proceed to find a planet on the white side of the hole. I don't know what to tell you on that one. Like I said, it's sort of like taking a lot of fucking drugs and reading Dante's Inferno, or having watched Hellraiser previously, and Star Trek all at once. It's a fascinating ending. It's visually really incredibly weird looking, and you kind of sit there watching and going, what the fuck is going on? Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't think many movies would have the courage to end this on some sort of odd theological tangent. I mean, it's basically a science fiction movie. It's basically supposedly a family-friendly movie made by Disney in the 70s. And it's just got the weirdest fucking theological-based ending you can possibly find in the movie. So while the movie is a little slow, a little cheesy, there's something about it that's still very endearing. Still makes me want to pull it out and watch it every once in a while. Because it has a lot of things in it that you kind of, you want to see. You want to watch it again and say to yourself, let me see if I get it now. And it's got a lot of interesting ideas in it. I think maybe if they were ever to remake it, possibly taking the tone of it being a family movie down might help. I think maybe making it more of along the lines of like a very scary horror movie in space might help. I'm not sure how you get past that weird, crazy theological ending. I don't even want to attempt to explain what it means. Hell is in a black hole, and if you make it through, you made it to the heaven planet. I don't. Sounds like Dianetics to me. Really, sounds like Scientology, but. You know, hey, it is what it is. It does, like I said, it's one of these movies where there's something, even as bad as it is, there's something very endearing about it and makes you want to watch it again because there's enough going on in it that you kind of enjoy what's going on. And enough of an ambiguous ending that you kind of want to watch it over and over again to see if maybe you are grasping some context you'd never noticed before. I always think of it as like if you've ever seen American Psycho, the ending to American Psycho is very ambiguous. And one day I'll review American Psycho as well. But it's a very ambiguous ending. It's one of those endings that probably will have fans debating what the ending meant for eternity. And I think The Black Hole is one of those movies too. while it has its cheesy moments, and while it certainly has moments that don't make any sense, and it probably could have been a much better movie than it was, and was sort of a bit of a ripoff of Star Wars, there's enough in it to make you say to yourself, you know what, it was kind of one of the worst movies I've seen, but it was also kind of one of the best movies I've ever seen, because it has interesting concept, and it makes you think. That ending makes you think. It makes you wonder what it was. It's one of those rare films that doesn't necessarily provide you point A, point B, C, D, E, F, G. It kind of just goes, here's point A, point B, point C. You figure out what D was, because we just gave you an ending. You interpret it, which is kind of refreshing in some respects. So would I recommend The Black Hole, Disney's The Black Hole? Absolutely. I absolutely do. I mean, it's very dated by today's standards of 2018. But as I said, there's something kind of endearing about it in a lot of ways. I absolutely recommend it. I mean, at least seeing it once. I mean, you may see it once and say to yourself, I don't really need to see this movie again. That may be the case, because as I said, it's slow. It doesn't really provide you any answers. It's probably not a quality film in terms of something where you're like, well, it was excellent filmmaking. I just feel there's a lot of untapped potential in the movie. I feel there was a lot of untapped ideas, or a lot of ideas that kind of just fall on the wayside. And obviously, the robot Maximilian is just... It's an underrated sci-fi robot, and the Cygnus is an underrated sci-fi ship that really, I think the movie kind of loses its audience in the fact that it doesn't provide you a super action-packed... Like Star Wars is a very super action-packed movie. From point A to point B, there's really nothing that really falls apart in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. It produces from beginning to end a great movie. This movie kind of runs a little slow, kind of runs a little cheesy. Somebody had a lot of really good ideas in there. They just didn't put the potential into it that would have made it as good as Star Wars was. So I definitely recommend The Black Hole. I don't know if it's a movie everybody's going to enjoy, but I enjoy watching it from time to time. And there you go. I mean, I think that really covers it. I mean, if you do end up seeing it and you enjoy it, I would recommend buying it. It's definitely worth watching. I'd probably throw it on like maybe twice a year at least. So it's something I definitely enjoy from time to time. But there you go. I think that's the review I have of Disney's The Black Hole. Hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully you enjoyed the review. If not, man, I'm really sorry on this one. I may have led you astray, because it's not everybody's cup of tea. I don't think it is. I feel a lot of people will watch it and say, oh God, that was a shitty movie. And to some degrees it is, but from my point of view, I think there is any number of things in it that are enjoyable. And from time to time, once again, enjoyable every so often. So, there you go. Disney's The Black Hole.